Welcome to the Tea Mind. I'm Erica, and this is your weekly pause to put the kettle on, slow down, and reconnect with what really matters. Let's start by taking a breath in through your nose and just holding it for a moment, and then slowly exhaling through your mouth. And let's do that again. Inhale, hold, and exhale, just letting your shoulders drop a little. Now imagine yourself sitting in your favourite chair with a lovely warm mug of tea in your hands, the steam rising up gently, dancing into the air. And notice outside the leaves are starting to change golden, burnt orange, deep red, a final flare before they let go. And in your mind's eye, just watch one leaf fall, and as it floats to the ground, a question whispers: what am I holding on to that's ready to fall? Today, we are exploring trust, but not as a passive idea, more as an active way of letting go. And this is perfect for the meta element of autumn. Have you ever felt like you're endlessly just trying to push a big boulder uphill only to get absolutely nowhere? That was me until I really learned the Chinese five elements and the T mind system and learned to trust. Much like a tree trusts in autumn, it learns to let go of its leaves, not because it's easy, but because it's time and it's part of the natural cycle of things. So, in the Chinese five elements, autumn is the season of metal. It's the energy of refinement, of precision, of really letting go and honouring what remains and expressing that gratitude as well. That's really, really important. Metal governs your lungs and your large intestines, which are the organs of breath and release, the inhale and the exhale, what we take in and what we let go of. And it's also linked to the emotion of grief, because to trust the process, you often have to grieve the illusion of control. And let's be honest, trusting can often feel like doing nothing, especially when you're already doing all the things. You've made the plan, you've showed up, you've done the work, and now you're waiting. And that stillness, that waiting game can feel like a failure. It can feel really frustrating. So, what do we often do? Instead, we start to push harder. We refresh the inbox one more time, send the follow up email, obsess over the outcome, trying to micromanage the magic. But we think trust is passive, that it means sitting on the couch and crossing our fingers. But in reality, it's the opposite of passive. Trying to control everything often ends up just blocking our creativity and making us more and more anxious. And it can often delay the very thing that we're trying to achieve. As Alan Watts puts it beautifully in his amazing book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, which I'll put in the show notes below, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. So trust, like a breath, only works when it's allowed to flow. But how do you actually do that? How do you release without giving up? Last year, we decided to move house from the city to a town, and the idea came absolutely out of nowhere. It's a story for another day. And it was a very big leap, and we had a very tight timetable. There was lots of moving parts, zero guarantees, and it could very easily have unraveled. It almost did quite a number of times right up until moving day. But something in me felt very clear. I was absolutely knew what I wanted, and I saw us living in our new house before we'd even stepped inside. I had, in my mind, I was living in that house for a full 6 months before we actually moved in. But I made the plan, then I let it go. And things got rocky, which they generally do. I always returned to my tea. Every time I felt that urge to control, that anxiety creeping up, I'd brew a cup of tea and pause and remember that my job is the what, the universe handles the how. Inevitably, there were lots of delays, there was stress, there was communication breakdowns, and at one point, I thought we might wind up with no house to move to. But as it turned out, we only had to live in our van for one night, which was a massive win. So we made it and we moved into our new house. And I knew deep down that the reason was that we had trusted the process. We had done the work and then let go of the outcome. And then trusted that that or something better would come in its place. And I've got examples of that all through my life and lots of different stories. So really, what is trust when we look at it? It's all about showing up for your part. It's about taking the next right step and then letting the outcome breathe. It's about refining your goal, releasing attachment to the outcome, which is so important. And then remembering to return to your breath and remembering that that act of letting go is actually a real strength. And it's no coincidence that the meta element governs both grief and gratitude, because grief is what we feel when we release, but gratitude is what we feel when we recognize what remains. And that is where trust lives, I think, not in the control, but in the clarity, the action, and the surrender. So often the thing that's blocking our trust isn't the world itself, it's our own tight grip on how we think it should go, the expected outcome, whether it's the job offer that you were expecting, or the plan that didn't work out, or a timeline that you're frustrated it's not gone quicker. Trust instead invites us to let go, to unclench that deep desire, and to release the script of how you think it should or ought to happen, and to make space for a different and possibly better unfolding. And that's where tea comes in, which is a really helpful practice to help you lean into that. So this week, I invite you to try the Trust Cup routine. It's not a big dramatic ritual, but rather it's a quite simple practice, but it can start to shift everything. So here's how it goes. Step number one is to brew slowly. So choose a tea. I'd recommend our herbal infusion. I am loving our coconut and turmeric chai at the moment, which is perfect for this season. It's a herbal infusion and it's got all the colours and the ingredients and the tastes of autumn. So as you let the water boil, watch the steam rise gently and try and focus on one thing at a time. This is the practice. Step two is your breath. So as your tea steeps, breathe slowly, holding in for 4, holding it for 4, and out for 6. And just try and focus on that breathing as your tea brews. And as you do, imagine your breath cleansing your system like the metal element clears clutter. Each breath out is a release. And step 3 is about gratitude and letting go. So while your tea's brewing, maybe write one thing that you're grateful for from the last 24 hours and one thing that you're ready to let go of today. It might be a fear, an expectation, maybe it's something that's no longer serving you. And you don't have to solve it, you just need to name it. And that's where the power is. And then step 4 is to sip and trust. So drinking your tea, feeling the warmth in your hands, remembering that each sip is a reminder that you are doing enough, you're becoming who you need to be, and you can start to let go now. I am a big fan of Brené Brown, and one of her quotes that I love is this: "Trust is built in very small moments. It's earned not through heroic acts, but through paying attention, keeping boundaries, and being reliable." So trust isn't a giant leap of faith. It is a small cup of tea, drunk mindfully with presence. A practice that you repeat day after day. So I'd like to leave you with a question today. What would it look like to trust yourself just for today? What's one action you could take? And what's one outcome you can surrender? Maybe write it down or make a little note on your phone. And if you feel brave, just share it with someone. Or just ponder it while you have your tea today. That's it for today. I hope something landed. I hope something lifted. And if it did, share it with someone who needs a pause too. If you enjoyed this, you'll love the Tea Mind Substack, where the kettle's always on and we can connect more deeply. Until next time, stay present, sip slowly, and thanks for listening.